Good afternoon. You're listening to Gambling with an Edge. Now here are your hosts, Bob Dancer and Richard Munchkin.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer.
And I'm Richard Munchkin.
Today, Richard and I are going through our mailbag, answering your questions, which cover quite a bit of ground. So let's get started. First question. In Arnold Snyder's book called Radical Blackjack, he talks about a book written by Bill Benter that was released on Amazon.com for sale in 2020. He mentioned it was based on a paper written in 1994 by Benter, titled Computer-Based Horse Racing Handicapping and Wagering System. I'm unable to find this anywhere, even used bookstores or eBay. Do you know what happened with this book? Was it ever really released? I did see a Kindle version on Amazon, but it was not available for sale. So one of the nice perks of being a co-host on this show is I can send an email to someone like Bill Benter and he'll answer me. So I put this exact question to him and this was his reply. A couple years ago, I was surprised to see a book by me on sale on Amazon. I had nothing to do with it and don't know the publisher. Apparently, some enterprising publisher figured he could make some money by printing up and reselling a paper I had written and another online article about me. There's no new material in the book. I had my lawyer send a letter to Amazon complaining about it, and I think Amazon took it down. Actually, I just looked on Amazon and the Kindle version is still there. Benter also sent links to the 3 articles that he thought were in that book, which he said he didn't mind if I passed on those links to our audience, and we will have those in the show notes. Next question. Trying to get how to calculate the risk of ruin for 8-5 jacks or better, or 8-6 jacks or better. For a 9-6, a bankroll of $3,000 for a 25-cent game, which travel bankroll for a 3-hour session is $375, puts my risk of ruin at 0.01%. With slower learning per hour, 25 cents times 5 for max coin, I would guess $400 travel bankroll to get the same risk of ruin. Just not sure and don't want to guess for a small edge in a game. Why not play a better game? Well, it's the only game I can find in the closest casino, and almost all blackjack tables have gone to 6-5 except for $25 or higher. If you can point me in the right direction, it would be helpful. Okay. If you still have a working copy of Video Poker for Winners, it's on there. That program is no longer supported, and when you change computers, you can't get a new copy or an upgrade to an old copy. But if it still works on an older machine, it still works. If you don't have a working copy of that, try Dunbar's Risk Analyzer for Video Poker. You can download it for $20 from LasVegasAdvisor.com. It is done on a different system, but when I tested it on problems like the one you list, and you could do on both software products, they came out virtually identical to like 3 decimal places. So that'll work quite well. All right, time to get a question for Richard. I was playing on a Las Vegas Strip casino for only one shoe when I got told I was flat bet at any minimum I start with. In your experiences, when do Vegas Strip casinos flat bet versus back off versus trespass a player?
Well, there is no rhyme or reason, and it can vary even on the same shift. A different boss may do something different than another boss. So there isn't really any kind of consistent answer to these casinos will trespass you and these casinos will flat bet you. Actually, flat betting is pretty rare these days. This is the first time I've heard it here in Las Vegas in quite some time. It's possible that the boss who did it had just come from New Jersey or Missouri or something where they're not allowed to throw you out. But as I say, there is no consistent rules for any of the particular casinos.
All right. In one of our former shows, I heard Richard mention that he was doing intermittent fasting, and it was working great for him. My questions are, one, is he still doing this, and what types of fasting is he doing? 16/8, or what days a week? Two, what does he eat during his eating window? Anything he wants, or does he still maintain a healthy diet such as low carb, high protein? Does he drink during this window? I'm a very heavy guy and middle-aged and need to lose weight for my health. I'm very interested in this method. So, Richard, what do you say?
Well, I came across intermittent fasting before I knew it was a thing. I just learned from my body that I slept much better when I went to bed with no food in my stomach. And I woke up feeling better than when I had no food in my stomach. And particularly alcohol. Um, there's a big difference if I have alcohol at say 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I wake up the next day feeling like crap. But if I have it before 6 o'clock, then I don't. So anyway, years ago, stopped eating after about 6 p.m. and um, and then this all this information about intermittent fasting came out, and I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. As to what I eat, I stopped eating sugar at least a few years ago, and I find that if I'm not eating sugar, I don't crave it, but once I start, I want it all the time. So I just stay away from it completely. And for 20 years or something, I did not drink any alcohol. And then I kept hearing these studies where people who have one or two drinks a day live longer than people who don't drink at all. So I started drinking one or two drinks a day, mostly red wine, but also scotch. I like scotch. But then just recently, within the last month or two, um, I saw an article that there's a new study that said people who even only have like one drink a day are at higher risk for dementia. And so I was like, oh, maybe I should stop drinking again completely. Um, so currently I'm not drinking anymore. Although I did write to there's a great podcast um, called Freakonomics MD, and there's a doctor on there who's both a medical doctor and an economist, and he looks at interesting questions between the link between data and medicine. And so I actually sent him an email asking him where he stands on this. Um, but anyway, that's kind of my routine. Now,
Yeah,
what
I have
about
a
you,
lot.
Bob? You've lost a lot of weight in the last year.
I have. Thank you. Richard, you were my source for first hearing about intermittent fasting as well. I don't remember if it was on the air or when we were together for something else. But since then, it has become part of my regimen. I try not to eat after 8 p.m. or before noon, other than taking some vitamin supplements when I first arise. But the intermittent fasting is just part of the deal. Although it works some in and of itself, it works far better if you combine it with calorie restrictions, healthy eating, and exercise. Um, there's no unique definition of healthy eating. The most popular diets, Mediterranean, keto, paleo, South Beach, and others, they all work. They're all different. They all recommend greatly reducing or eliminating sugars, even the artificial ones. They don't want you to have white flour or fried food, but where they go after that varies. Some allow beans and whole grains, some don't. Some emphasize proteins, some emphasize healthy fats. Some say beef is just a regular protein and fine. Others say try to limit yourself to twice a month on beef. If I had to pick a known diet for a beginner dieter, I would probably recommend Mediterranean, as it has the most options on there that would be palatable to an American palate. I personally used keto for more than a year, starting in March 2021, dropping more than 40 pounds in that year. After that, I switched to Mediterranean, and in the last 5 months, I've dropped another 30 pounds. I'm also exercising and taking vitamin supplements. The supplements I most highly recommend are NMN, which is nicotinamide mononucleotide, and resveratrol, which also support anti-aging, meaning you live longer, healthier. My guru on anti-aging is David Sinclair. You can easily find videos of him on YouTube. If you Google David Sinclair supplements, you'll find out the ones he recommends. I know my personal journey is only anecdotal, but a couple of years ago, walking up one flight of stairs would leave me winded. Richard asked me about that when we were getting ready to tape a show on the second floor of the Las Vegas Advisor, and I put it down to mild COPD, which was caused by being in casinos for 50 years or so. Today, I run a mile 3 days a week, in addition to other exercise. To be sure, these are slow miles, more like jogs than running, but I can do them now without killing myself. And after walking a lap, I'm not even winded anymore. Over time, I expect to run further and faster, primarily due to the reduced weight, NMN, and resveratrol. The resveratrol is what is the magic ingredient of red wine, which is the main reason they recommended red wine as a healthy way to drink. But to get the amount of resveratrol that I put under my tongue every morning, I would have to drink between 600 and 700 glasses of red wine a day. The good news just keep on coming. So now I'd probably drink 2 glasses of red wine a week, maybe 1, and I feel great.
Yeah, I should also add, periodically I will fast for 24 or 36 hours. And that is much easier than you think if you've never done it. It's really not that hard. And especially if I'm flying somewhere, I don't eat on a day I'm flying. So the food in the airport's always junk, and so consider that if you're trying to lose weight. That's also good, and fasting is really, really good for you.
Yeah, I haven't tried that recently, and I suspect I will. There are people I know successfully who fast one week every 3 months, and which sounds like a decent plan. Fortunately for me, Bonnie can take care of herself food wise. I mean, she'll cook for me if I want her to, or go out to dinner with me at the casinos. But if I'm not eating today or picking my own stuff because she won't like what I eat, then she's fine with just cooking for herself, or she has go-to foods of her own. All right, next question. On August 4th, Predictit was essentially told by the regulatory CFTC to no longer have any new markets and to close all customer accounts by February 15, 2023, which happens to be my birthday, should any of you want to send me a present. There are still existing markets that are open for trading until then, and some of them were designed not to settle until 2024, such as who will win the 2024 presidential election. Predictit has not made a determination at this time about what will happen with this. Are you familiar with any similar occurrence that gamblers faced, and do you see any way to make an advantage play out of this? Richard.
Well, if they haven't decided what happens to the bets, that's a big problem. So until they make a decision there, I would not pursue this. But the first thing that came to mind was in the first Beyond Counting book by James Grosjean. He talked about a situation where the boats, the river boats used to literally be river boats, and they closed. And when they closed, they would come up to the crap table and say, last 3 rolls. And if you had a bet on the layout that had not been settled, they just gave you the bet back. And so you could have an edge by betting on the pass line, and if your bet went to a number, they were going to give it back to you. So that's what it reminded me of. So if they decide that bets that aren't settled are just going to be returned, but see, I don't know how they're going to do that if everybody bought a contract at a different price. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there might be something there, but without going in and looking at what they have and knowing what they're going to do at the end, nothing jumps to mind.
Yeah, and they have an $800 or $900 maximum number of bets you can have, and if so, you're being repaid at even money. This is not a huge opportunity.
Well, no, it's eight or 900 per bet, right? But you can have multiple different bets.
All right. So if we find out more, or we'll address it. If any of our listeners find out more, send us what you find out to help us address it. All right. Next question. Playing video poker at a small town Nevada casino at which I've been a regular for the past 37 years, although its ownership has changed several times, most recently about 3 years ago. A few days ago, my host approached me for what I thought would be another friendly greeting, like 100 times before, but instead he told me the casino had decided they no longer want my action, and I'm no longer allowed to play any of their gambling games. I consider myself a skilled player, thanks to Bob's teachings, but not a high-profit AP. He allowed me to stay in my hotel room that night, as well as play off any free play I had, about $40. He said I was welcome to pay for food in the restaurant, but that I was uninvited to that night's slot tournament. I asked, why don't they just deactivate my player's card account and let me keep playing, even though I know I wouldn't, and he said they don't know how to do that, which I found strange. Anyway, they sent me another mailer today saying I have an additional free play. My question is, would you, presumably meaning me, and should he, go to the casino and try to play the new free play they've given me? It's $75 a week and would be available when I insert my card in a machine, but also an additional amount that requires going to the club booth and scratching off the mystery amount. I suspect if my host or his boss saw me, they'd get pretty angry and want to throw me out. What are the risks associated with my trying? Thanks again. I would try to collect at the machine and not the booth. I would go on, assuming this is your local casino and close, I would try to go on hours where the bosses aren't there, like 3 o'clock in the morning or something, if that's feasible for you. If they throw you out, it's no big deal. You've already essentially been 86 there, so you're basically dead to the place, and it's not as though they're going to beat you up. So another option is to have a friend pick up your free play, but there's cost to that. Friends want to collect 25% or something, and they may or may not handle things appropriately. They may play on machines where you get W2Gs and then the cat's out of the bag. So, but I try to pick up the free play for as long as I was able. Next question. This is blackjack. On Wednesday, June 29th, around 8:30, I was backed off from blackjack for counting at a local tribal casino. They just wanted my ID. I asked to use the bathroom to wash up. They allowed me. Three men then followed me to the restroom, asking for ID. Followed me out, asking for ID. They then asked for a name, and I gave them a fake one. And I was walking to the exit. The main suit threatened me with trespass if I didn't provide ID. I think he was the only one following me since I was moving calmly and swiftly to the exit. My focus wasn't on them, but rather on getting out of the building. It was at this moment when he assaulted me, grabbing my left arm in the bicep area. I pulled my body and the arm he grabbed away from him and loudly proclaimed, "Don't touch me." He then touched me again during the long walk to the door, where upon reaching, he told me I was trespassed. I didn't file a police report or anything. I just drove to the next casino. Later, I told a family member about it and tried to let it go. My inclination is just to move on with life. What do you think, Richard?
Well, yeah, it was an Indian casino, so you've got no chance. They can do what they want. But how many times do we have to say it? When they back you off, you go immediately to the door. You do not go to the restroom, you go immediately to the door. And if they're asking for your ID, just ignore them and keep walking. But, it is an Indian casino, so there's basically nothing you can do.
Yeah, and as assaults go, that was, for me anyway, that would be rather minor.
Yeah.
Some people have, we'll say, issues where even that much touching is traumatic. But assuming that's not the case for you, because if you sue them or something, at minimum, you're going to have to give your name.
Well,
Uh,
but wait a minute. What can you I mean, the first thing an attorney is going to ask you is, what are your damages?
right.
How were you damaged? I mean, assault can be a criminal charge, but you're in an Indian casino on Indian land with Indian police.
Okay. Next question. So I don't have a good answer for this, and it's talking about APs, and I'm assuming he's not talking about video poker APs. So I'm going to let Richard handle it. But my question is a theoretical bankroll question. How much of your net worth would you dedicate towards your bankroll as a full-time solo AP? And would that bankroll, non-bankroll split change as your net worth changes or as you age? My guess is that as your net worth scales, your bankroll also scales, but eventually hits some opportunity ceiling. I'm also guessing that ceiling can be pretty big. So, Richard.
Yeah, I never think about it in that way, but obviously, if you have $10 million, then you're going to be using a much smaller percent of your bankroll as your gambling bankroll than if you have $10,000. So, you have to have enough money to live. So, yeah, I don't know how to answer that question other than to say you have to have enough money to live, and what you can afford to set aside as your gambling bankroll, then that's your bankroll.
So, I guess I do have something to say about it. Um, if you have a $10,000 bankroll, generally speaking, you're willing to take some risk in order to uh, build it up. If worse comes to worse and you have to start over again, well, starting over from zero is not that much different than starting from 10,000. Now, let's say somehow you built up $1 million bankroll. Now you probably aren't so willing to take those kind of risks to build it up bigger, uh, because you have $1 million, and that gives you opportunities. And you play your cards right, you might be set for at least a long time, maybe for life, depending on how old you are. So you're not going to take the risk when you already have a big bankroll. There are other factors such as, are you single, or do you have a family that you're responsible for? And does your wife or husband understand about bankroll and things? The percentages you would apply to gambling are much different if you're only responsible for yourself than if you have, wife and 3 kids that you have to put through college. It also depends on how good of a gambler you are. I don't know the definition of an average AP as to what they can make. They are so wildly different. Bill Benter was able to make millions and millions and millions of dollars, and most of us aren't in that position. Bill Benter has more than Richard makes in a month. Can you imagine? So there's a whole lot of factors, and I don't have any rule of thumb, but age is also different. If you go bankrupt at 20, you have a lot of options that I wouldn't have if I went bankrolled at 75. At 20, you can always move back in with your parents, or get a job or go back to school. At 75, my parents aren't around, and getting more education is not likely to be a financially useful thing to spend my time on. So there's so many things that vary. All right, let's go on. The next question, when I got it, I had no idea what the guy was talking about. Richard sent me a link so I could follow and figure out what the guy was talking about, and I have not read that link. So here's the question, and the rest of you are going to find out for sure what it's all about the same time I do. So, hey, Richard, question for the next mailbag. What count was it at when that guy from Vice went all in and lost his 500?
Okay, so I was contacted by Vice TV. They were doing a segment on Las Vegas, and they wanted to have some gambling advice. And I said, okay. So they came, and the guy who was the host or the main character of the episode did not even know how to play blackjack. He knew nothing at all. And I explained to him that there was not a way in the world I could teach him to count cards in less than an hour, which is what we had. So I was worried that this was going to turn into just a terrible episode, and was regretting having said yes. But they really did the whole episode kind of tongue in cheek, and they did not try to portray it as if this guy had learned how to do anything. And so, I gave him a little lesson at my home, and then we went to Red Rock Casino, and he eventually just shoved all his money out in the circle. The count was way negative. I don't remember what, maybe -5 or 6, but he really didn't care. He wanted to play a little blackjack and then eventually shove his whole stack into the circle, and he lost it. The segment is actually kind of entertaining, not the segment with me, but after that he ends up going to the Clown Motel in Tonopah, I think it is, and which is a really weird, bizarre place if you don't know what it is. And then the third segment, he goes to a brothel. And as I say, it's all kind of played tongue in cheek and pretty funny, and so it turned out okay. I was pleased that it was not trying to be a serious look at advantage play. So That's what the guy was asking about.
All right.
And I guess I will try to find that link and we'll put it in the show notes.
All right. It's time for some commercials. So we still have lots of questions, but and we'll be back soon. The South Point has more than 10,000 games returning at least 99%. This is more such games than anyone else has. In August, the promotion is free play with the kicker and is only for locals already receiving mailers. Instead of receiving your normal mailer 4 times, Tuesday through Thursday each week, this time you get your mailer once each week, Monday through Wednesday, and if you pick that up, you get the same thing Friday or Saturday of the same week. Pick up all 8 free play offerings and you receive a double amount Monday, August 29th. For example, if your offer is $50 a week, normally you'd end up with $200 in that month. In August, if you make the 5 extra trips required, you'll end up with $500.
If you're serious about card counting, the Blackjack Apprenticeship membership is a great way to learn, train, network, and get the resources you need to succeed. We've had quite a few guests on Gambling with an Edge who exclusively trained and got their start through Blackjack Apprenticeship. Check out the website at blackjackapprenticeship.com. They have member forums, training software, and guides to help you learn. So that's blackjackapprenticeship.com, and you will find a link in the show notes.
Videopoker.com is the best place to play lots of games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on many of the games. The game of the week is Peek and Play Poker. This is a 7 coins per line game where you get to see the first card off the pack of 47 unseen cards. 47 normally unseen. It's a 52 card deck and you dealt the first 5. That's where you get 47. You must take that card, assuming you don't hold all 5 original ones. Let's say you're dealt ace, king, queen, jack of spades, and a red 4. In normal video poker, you hold all 4 spades, say a prayer, and hope for royal. Also assume that the peak card is another ace. Well, you're not going to get the royal flush. Here, you just hold the ace because you know another ace is coming, and a new ace will be paired up by the first ace off the deck. Now, there's still stuff to hope for because you can get 4 aces or 4 aces with a kicker if it's such a game. You'll have to work out strategy on your own, but this is one of the games constructed in an era where they did not create games that paid more than 99%. So it's a rare promotion that this will be your best choice of a game to play. Next question from our listeners. Is the average daily theoretical calculated based on a single property or an aggregation of the ADT across all MGM or all Caesars property? Do I need to concentrate my play at a single property, or can I be flexible and play at multiple properties under the same rewards card umbrella? Presumably this is talking about playing in Las Vegas, where there are numerous MGM properties and numerous Caesars properties. Now, I can't address the MGM properties. I was invited not to play there more than 20 years ago. But my Caesars host said in Las Vegas, you can play at all Caesars. You can play at Caesars, Harrah's, Planet Hollywood, Bally's, etc., all on the same day, and your theoretical is added together. I know that is true with respect to receiving bonuses, such as playing 5,000 tier credits in one day and receiving 10,000 tier credit bonus. So you could play 2,000 tier credit at Caesars and 3 at Planet Hollywood, and you would still get your bonus. All right. Next question is about something that our show is not all about, but may be fun anyway. I don't know. Any tips for dating as a single professional gambler? I'm always honest about my profession, but it's hard to find someone who gets it. Should I bring a copy of Sex, Lies, and Video Poker on my first date to impress them? Seriously, though, I need advice. Well, I don't know how effective that book will be in securing what you're looking for, But I promise, if you buy 100 copies of that book, one of the co-hosts of this podcast will be eternally grateful. This is not a dating site. There are plenty of those sites out there, should you care to look. But for me personally, I learned how to dance decades ago and have found there are always women interested in men who know how to and are willing to dance. That's been my go-to play whenever I've been single. And there have been a number of those times in my life, both before and after I was a successful gambler. Now, Richard, it's been more than 30 years since you were single. Do you have any advice on this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big problem. My rule was you do not tell them until the third date. Because most of the people you go on a first date with, you never see them again anyway. So, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so that's my, and especially if you're a table games player, do not date dealers or pit bosses. The other thing, and I'll just throw this out there. I have no experience with this at all, but you might try. I mean, if you're on dating apps, see what happens if you put it in your profile. Because I think there is a certain group of women who might be attracted to somebody who is actually a professional gambler. So I would experiment with that and see if it works. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and you'll definitely get action if you say on those sites, I'm a successful professional gambler and I have a $10 million bankroll. I'm assured that will get you some dates. I'm pretty sure. Don't recommend it though. Next question. How many seconds or microsections does it take for all 47 cards to pass by after being dealt Fordo Royal? And I don't know. It's very fast, certainly much faster than microseconds, much faster than nanoseconds. It probably differs by game manufacturer and even by generations of machines. I know of no way to time it when you hit the button so as to improve your odds of connecting. So for me, when I am dealt Fordo Royal, I take a second to make sure all 4 cards are firmly held. Then I hit the button. So it isn't a matter of whether I wait 3.2 or 3.75 or 6.9 seconds. I don't say to whoever's sitting next to me, hey, look, it's my turn. I don't do that, but I know lots of people who do. Next question. Are there any casinos that allow players to pay off their markers with a credit card without an additional fee and have it processed as a purchase instead of a cash advance? Oh, how nice that would be, especially
Yeah.
for those of you who need to create a lot of credit card spending in order to receive other offers. I haven't found a casino that does this, but I haven't been looking systematically. You can always ask. Eventually, you might find one. Count me a skeptic, but it's possible there's one out there. Do you know of any, Richard?
No.
Do you think
Although
any?
I have heard about that on cruise ships, right?
Yeah, NCL used to have one. They don't anymore, but the promotion was you could, I think it was $3,000 a day charged to your room for however many people are in the room. So if your credit card would handle that much action, they would just be billed as normal charges and with no things. So a couple who are well financed, could take a week's cruise and is that $42,000 of spending that for basically no charge, you can get some really nice credit card benefits for that. All right, next question. I'm a recreational gambler and have recently taken interest in video poker. I recently purchased a few books, I hope they're mine, and waiting for them to arrive. I'm listening to your most recent episode, which was July 28th, so that might be our second most recent, just before Russell Fox. Software was mentioned. Do you have any recommendations for software to practice on? Also, will I be offering any in-person classes this year or next year? So I recommend Win Poker for practice. You can get it at zamzone.com. It's a Windows-based program. So it hasn't changed significantly for more than 20 years, other than changed enough to operate on Windows 6 and 7 and 8, 9, and 10. Whenever the changes to Windows happened, it was changed enough for that. The Wizard of Odds website has some free training tools, which aren't as user-friendly as Win Poker, but it's hard to argue with free. I'd love to teach classes some more. Right now, the South Point has decided they no longer want to hold them there. It is possible that will change in the future, but right now there are no other casinos that I know of that have good enough video poker that I would want to teach there. That may change. If a casino has enough decent video poker and wants me, I am available. Next question. I use VP Free for the inventory of the games offered and pay schedules at each property. Since I'm a recreational player, I don't know the property gameplay strategy for all the games, so I rely on strategy cards to help. I regularly rest the strategy card against the game monitor for easy access. In your opinion, in terms of comp offers and future mailers, does the property know and or care that I'm using these cards to improve my play? I'm mostly in the quarter and dollar level, playing roughly 3 to 4 hours per day. Okay, it's vpfree2.com, which is the website, not vpfree. But generally, casinos don't know or care if you use strategy cards. Occasionally, you might run up into a casino manager who doesn't want you to use them. I've had this happen to me twice over the past 28 years, although I usually don't have a card on display. If they ask me to put such cards or notes away, I do. Also, doing well for quarters or dollars isn't going to get most casinos too excited. They're far more worried about players doing well on far larger machines. Okay, I got an email recently, and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And it said, how do you calculate the edge on this video poker promotion? Molly's in Las Vegas offers lose 20, get 20, but I'm not sure how to calculate the advantage, if any. Also, if you've played this promotion before, do you literally have to put in $20 and lose it all before you get the $20 free play? Or can you just lose 4 hands at $5 to be credited with the $20 free play? So I've never heard of Molly's. This sounded like a Las Vegas advisor low roller play to me. So I emailed Anthony and I said, do you know anything about this? And he said, yeah, he mentioned it and mentioned my name in the podcast. So that explains why I got the email. I went there this morning, I went there Saturday morning. There's one that is a mile away from the gym I go to. Most of them are on the west side of Las Vegas. They have, I think, 8 or 9 and one is on the east side, Silverado Ranch and Eastern, which is about 2 miles east of the South Point. You need to get a player's card. You need to lose $20. They have games in denominations between quarters and $2, all the same pay schedules. Or the quarter pay schedule for bonus poker, for example, is the same as a quarter pay schedule for $2. So to lose the $20, I decided playing on the $2 denomination was the smartest play. You get it done quickly. I did not. It took me 5 hands. That's $10 a hand on a $2 machine. It took me 5 hands to lose the $20, and I did not. I had some winning hands, and I had more than 2 losing hands. I did not pull my card intermediately to see if the just losing 2 hands would be enough to generate the bonus. So pulled my card, put it back in, put in my PIN number, and expected to see $20. I didn't. I saw $40. There is a sign-up bonus for either Jet Gaming, which is the root operator that services Molly's, or maybe it's from Molly's, of $20. It's a one-time deal. So now I had $40 on my card. I tried to cash it out, couldn't. So I played one hand. I got 3 of a kind, and cashed out. And they gave me $30 and still had 15 credits on the machine, which is $30. I'm not sure. The $30 they cashed out presumably was the winnings from the 3 of a kind on a $2 machine. They have other promotions in effect. They have a card of the day promotion. You can do this one twice a week. The days are Wednesday, Saturday in August. In September, they will have it for different days. They do have a card of the day promotion. There is 0.1 cashback, which is not very useful. I was playing bonus poker, which they have 7-5, which is a 98% even game. That is really loose as bar pay schedules go in Las Vegas. Now, this is a loss rebate. The general way to play a loss rebate is to bet big on the highest variance game you could find, and in order to qualify for the loss rebate quickly. Now, the highest variance video was a double bonus, which has more than twice the variance of bonus poker, but it was 8-5, which was a 96.8 game. And since I was only going to be playing 2 hands, I could not bring myself to play that. So I didn't. Plus, I was primarily there to see what it was all about so I could report it. So after the initial sign-up, you no longer get the $20 initial sign-up bonus, but you still get $20 each time you do this. But you have to play that through. Now, playing it on a $2 machine means 2 hands. That's perfectly fine with me. It's all right with me if I go home with 0 from the bonus and end up the day minus 20. That's fine. I know that if I do these over and over and over and over again, I will definitely succeed. But it's a low roller play. It's only $20. For me, it's only a mile from the gym, so going a mile for an EV of $19 or something is probably worth it. If it was 5 or more miles away, I wouldn't. But there are other Mollies around town. I don't know what their pay schedules are. But that's what I know. I hope that's useful to somebody. Next question. You're playing video poker progressives. What happens if a 5-coin progressive is hit for a royal flush while playing less than 5 coins? Does that affect anything? And if the royal is hit for less than 5 coins, then the progressive isn't reset and it keeps on building. It's as if it never happened. It just builds up the progressive amount a little bit for however much they played, and the progressive is still there for someone else to hit. The machines themselves do not make any sort of record of a royal has been hit that will affect other royals in the future. The machines are just dealing cards, and the royals come when they do. So if you see somebody hitting a three-coin royal on a progressive, that is neither lucky for you nor unlucky for you. It's just, well, it's lucky for you they didn't hit it by playing 5 coins, but it doesn't mean the machine is either overdue or underdue or anything like that. All right. Our mailbag is empty. So it is up to you, our listeners, to fill it up again. You can do that by sending us emails at gamblingwithanedge@gmail.com. Richard has a Twitter account at RWN21, RWM21. And many of you know Richard's and or my email address, and they all get to the same place. And we try to answer them. So at the end of our show, we have a recommended section. Richard, do you have anything to recommend our audience today?
Yeah, I'm binging a new show that I like a lot. It's called The Bear. It's on Hulu. It's about a young guy who is um, a top chef, worked at the best restaurants in the world, and his brother in Chicago dies and leaves him a Chicago Italian beef sandwich restaurant, a little dump. And he goes back to Chicago to take over the restaurant. And it's a 30-minute show, so the episodes are much shorter, but anyway, it's really well done. Maybe part of why I love it is being from Chicago. So, but yeah, that's my current show that I am binging.
Is it a comedy?
Yes, yeah, sort of. I mean, it's I don't. I guess it's supposed to be a comedy, but it's kind of dark.
My recommended is a movie called Official Secrets. This is a 2019 British film starring Keira Knightley and Ralph Fiennes, among others, based on true events. In 2003, when George W. Bush and Colin Powell were attempting to convince the United Nations to authorize the invasion of Iraq based on information concerning weapons of mass destruction, a request was sent to British intelligence to help find some dirt on non-permanent Security Council members at the United Nations in order to help sway the vote. Catherine Gunn, played by Knightley, was an analyst in British intelligence, was offended that Britain was being led into a war on false pretenses. She leaked the memo to an anti-war friend, who in turn leaked it to the press. This causes a huge uproar and eventually investigations, and eventually Gunn is arrested for violating the Official Secrets Act. And she's arrested right as the shock and awe invasion is launched. The story covers what happens to Gunn. Those old enough to remember those days, we had our own bunch of war protesters in the United States. This story's focus on Great Britain, and the perspective is different and interesting. The movie is currently available on Netflix. All right, that is it for this week. Thank you, Richard. Thanks to all our listeners for sending in questions. Go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.